Welcome to the Bookish Introverts Podcast. Join host Amazon bestselling author Brett Nelson and avid reader Melanie Dyer as they dive in to review books they've read, then chat with the amazing authors behind them. Quiet minds, big bookshelves. You don't want to miss it.
Hey everyone, it's Brett, and we are back with another great book talk today. We're going to talk about Echoes in the Dark. It's by author Shannon work. It's in one of my favorite book genres, mystery, suspense. And not only do we get the pleasure of talking about a great book today, the author has agreed to carve out a little bit of time to come in and talk to us about her book. So Shannon, why don't you come in and say hi to everyone?
Hi, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite, Brett.
You're welcome. We finally, I think this is our first time to talk to each other, isn't it? Have we talked
in
before?
person?
Yeah.
Not in person.
Not in person.
Facebook friends.
Yeah, we're Facebook friends. So years ago, when I got my website up and going, I had a blog where I sort of interviewed authors and stuff. And this is actually where Shannon and I first became acquainted. I was kind of flipping through Amazon looking for a book to read, and I ran across one of her books. I think it was your first book. Remind me what the name of that.
Now I See You.
Now I See You. Yeah, and I'm always looking for new books by new authors I hadn't read. And so I read the book, loved it so much. And so I contacted Shannon and was like, hey, would you like, of course, that was back in the day when blogs were not really the biggest thing back then, but I started the blog. So that was how I started. I kind of did the blog. Then now it's progressed into the podcast. Really, the podcast was kind of always what I wanted to do, but I just didn't have the guts to sort of get in front of the camera. And boy, it takes some courage to get in front of the camera. And I know on your Facebook,
writing a book takes courage too, you know.
Yes, it does. And I've noticed on Facebook, you've started kind of getting in front of the camera a little. How's that been for you?
A little bit.
Yeah.
That's definitely, that's another learning curve. And I still think I'm terrible at it, but it's kind of fun too. And I've got some positive feedback, so we'll keep working on it. So it's a neat way to communicate with readers.
It is. I think they enjoy it a little bit more because rather than just having to read some words, they actually get to see your face. They get to hear your voice. So it feels a little bit more personal. So
right.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah. Before we get too far into the book, I do want to mention we have had an explosion of listeners on the podcast, the audio side, like on Spotify, from listeners in Ukraine and Russia. So I want to take just a quick second to say thank you to all of our listeners in Russia and Ukraine. We've literally had hundreds just in the last month. So I want to say hi to all those people. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you so much. Keep listening to us. I'd also be interested in hearing how you heard about our Little Bit of Podcast. So if you guys want to email me at bookishintrovertspodcast@gmail.com, I'd love to hear how you heard about us. So thank you to all of our people in Russia and Ukraine. So Shannon, one thing that I kind of noticed as I was kind of looking at your website and kind of looking in on you, in your bio, you stated that during most of your working life, you've spent a lot of time developing real estate, and you earned a National Best in American Living award for one of your developments. Is that something that you still do, or is that something you did before you became an author? Tell us a little bit about that. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yes. Well, I actually I have a master's degree in land economics and real estate. And when I graduated, I went to work for a German developer that's located here in Houston, where I am now, and I grew up in the business. My dad was a developer, so I just always liked it and worked for the German developer for a little while, and then got out and started doing some projects on my own. And the National Best in America Living Award that I got was from Professional Builder Magazine and National Association of Home Builders. And that was a townhouse development that I did here in Houston near downtown.
Oh, wow. That is cool.
So I did that. Yeah, I did that for about 20 years. And during that time, I started and tried writing 2 books. And they were historical fiction because I really love to read historical fiction, but I would always get caught up in the research and never be able to get the book finished. So, so I tried to figure out what I would do next. And that's when I wrote Now I See You, which is a contemporary mystery, and got one finished, and then I was hooked.
Okay. So how long was it from the time you wrote Now I See You?
Now I see you.
Now, so how long from the time you wrote that till the time you published it?
Pretty quick because once I got, well, I had had two false starts writing books. So I thought, well, we'll see how it goes. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't again. But
Yeah.
when I got about halfway through the book, I thought, this could actually end up being a thing. I could finish this one. So then I started doing some research on what to do with it. And that's when I really got serious and figured out about publishing, the publishing industry. And really, when I probably finished the book and sent it to my editor, and it was probably within 4 or 5 months that the book was published after that. But it took me probably a little over a year and a half to write. It was the longest one to take me to write to get
Oh,
finished.
okay. Yeah.
Um, but then once I was done, went through the editing process, and it was actually pretty quick for it to come out.
Yeah. Uh, so why did it take you a little bit longer? Was it just because it was your first one and
First one, teaching, I was trying to teach myself. I was a little bit more serious and focused on it than the first two books that I started to write because I knew I really wanted to figure out how to get one done. And
yeah.
I tell people that Mary Higgins Clark is one of my all-time favorites, and I know she's one of yours too. I think that's how we
Yes.
originally connected, was our love of Mary
Oh,
Higgins Clark.
love her.
And well, I used her as an example and read and studied dozens of her books and reread dozens. In fact, I'm rereading one right now. I'm bad about rereading books I love,
Oh, me too.
but really was using her as a guide in trying to figure out how am I going to get a book finished. And so that's why I just was taking my time and being very methodical about it. And I got one done. But by the time I had that first one done, the idea for the second was already in my head, and that one came out within 7 months of the first one being out.
Oh,
So
wow. So
went a lot quicker.
did you plan on that being a series when you wrote it, or did it just sort of evolve as you went
You
along?
know, when I started doing the research, like I said, when I was about halfway through the manuscript and thinking, well, I might be able to get this one finished, the research that I was doing, everything pointed to writing a series. And I hadn't even thought about it. I was just writing, a standalone. I didn't know if I was going to get one done, much less think about now six
Yeah.
um, books later. So what I did was I went back and I beefed up the character in that first manuscript, and so that I could carry him over into another book. But really, I did that. I was probably a little more than halfway finished with it before I realized, oh, I need to make this a series. How am
Yeah.
I going to do that? And
Yeah.
then I went back, and you'll see the first book, he's not as big of a main character. I have another main character in the book, but then the second through the six books that are out now, he's a lot bigger character just because I didn't know when I was starting what I was going to end up doing with it. So it's a little
Yeah.
improvisation in
Yeah.
there.
There, especially when you're first starting out. I know that's how it was for me. I wrote my first book, A Christmas to Live For, just to see if I could. And it took me about 2 years to write it. Of course, I made the newbie mistake of making the book way too long, and I didn't know that you needed to actually be done in a certain amount of pages. Otherwise, people don't like to read long books. So, it's a fun process to figure out, or at least I thought so. It's a fun process to sort of figure it out. I just published my seventh one, and you know what? I'm still figuring it out every day.
Every day.
It's a
I know
learning
it. I feel the
process,
same way.
isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
It is a long learning curve, and I still don't feel like I've got it all figured out, even six
Oh,
books later, starting my seventh. But
yeah. And I feel like that's probably, to go back a little bit on Mary Higgins Clark. Did you ever meet her or talk to her?
I did not, and that's a huge regret.
Okay, I got to meet her once, and I got to talk to her for a few minutes. And she was doing a book signing about an hour away from my house. Called in sick that day. I'm not gonna lie. I called in sick at work, and because I'm like, there is no way I'm going to miss up a chance to meet her, because I have been reading Mary Higgins Clark since I was a teenager. It's probably in the 80s. I think she started writing in the 70s. I remember the very first time I picked up one of her books. It was at a book fair in a school. I always grew up listening or reading like Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys. Mary Higgins Clark was the very first, what I consider adult mystery book. Fell in love with it for the very
Right.
first, from the very first book of hers I read. Can't remember which one it was. So anyway, went up there to meet her, and she was just so fun to talk to, so gracious. And she actually talked to me for a couple minutes. She was like, I had told her that I had just written my first book, hadn't done anything with it yet. So of course she was like, come over here beside the table and talk to me while I sign a few. So we were talking while she was signing books and stuff. I think this was probably somewhere it was before COVID. So maybe late 90s, somewhere early 2000s. I said, tell me something that maybe has changed since you first started writing, just something that's different. And she goes, you know what? One of the things that I'm so glad about, she said, I'm glad I'm not just now starting my writing career like you are. She said, I'm so grateful that I started my career before the internet. She said, now you put things out there and everybody in the world criticizes your work and every little thing you do. She said, back in my day, the only thing I had to worry about was whether was the New York Times liked me or not. And she said, I'm far enough in my career now, it doesn't really matter what people say in reviews. But for authors that are new and upcoming, she said, horrible reviews can really destroy you before you even get started. So she said, that's one thing I'm so glad. So
That's a great story.
yeah.
That's a great story. I'm envious you got to meet her. She seemed like such a nice
Oh,
lady.
she was such a sweet lady. So yeah, I was told by a lady on TikTok years ago. I had posted about Mary Higgins Clark, how she's one of my favorite books. Not a fan of TikTok, but we do have a presence on there for the podcast. And I had posted like a book I was reading, one of my favorite books of hers. Well, this lady, she was a mystery author. She commented on my post and she was like, you really ought to find an updated suspense author to read. There are a lot better ones out there than Mary Higgins Clark. I
Okay,
was like, lady, we do
that's
not need
terrible.
that kind of negativity in the world.
Mm-mm. No, no, I think it's great. In fact, I love a lot of the old Golden Age mystery authors. Of course, Agatha Christie, but then also lately I've been reading a bunch of Mary Roberts Reinhardt, which is
Oh,
America's version of Agatha Christie, and she was actually around before Agatha Christie. I'm loving reading her
I need to
books, in
check
the
her out.
1920s, and yeah, Mary Roberts Reinhardt, she's one of my
Oh,
favorites now. So these old ones, there's some great old stories out there. You just kind of have to be in, that mindset for it.
yes.
But I love it. Some some fun reads.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that lady on TikTok, she was wrong.
She was
That's not
wrong.
good advice.
No,
That's not good advice.
no, that is not good advice. Well, and like you said, you learned a lot of your skill in putting together mystery and
Hmm.
suspense book. How did that process work? Is that something you can put into words?
Sure, sure. What I did was when I knew I wasn't going to be able to write a historical fiction because I'd gotten mired in my research, and in fact, a lot of the primary sources are behind me on the shelves here, a bunch of history books. I realized I needed to do something contemporary or something that didn't need a lot of research. So I thought, well, what else do I like to read? And that's when I immediately zeroed in on mystery. And I'm like, well, who do I like to read in that genre? And so several authors popped to mind. And so I started reading some books and really zeroed in on Mary Higgins Clark early on. And like I said, read dozens of her books, reread some of the ones I'd already read. And then in several of them, I did detailed outlines of what she did in every chapter.
Ah,
When she introduced characters, how she built suspense, different points of view, how she switched between her characters, really just studying her technique, and did that for several of the books. And that's how I kind of figured out how she progressed through the story arc and how she built suspense and how she got things done. And so I tell people all the time that I credit Mary Higgins Clark for teaching me how to get a book finished, not to write, but how to get a book finished. And but then it's interesting, after I did that first book, now mine have tended a little bit more towards the traditional mystery, and away from so much of the suspense. They all have the suspense in there that I learned from her, but now they, I think, are a little bit more. I found myself gravitating towards the traditional mystery genre,
Yeah.
more of the puzzles, the whodunit. So it has evolved. I used Mary Higgins Clark to help me figure out how to write and finish a
She
book.
was running a master class and didn't even know it.
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Were you devastated the day that you heard she died?
It was a very sad day because I hadn't gotten to meet her, and I thought, well, maybe there would be some chance that I would be able to meet her. But a little interesting story. I noticed several years later, it was a couple years, I believe, after her death, that her family had donated a bunch of things from her estate to a charity. I believe it was in the Boston area. And so, of course, I got on and I bought a bunch of books that were in her personal library,
Oh my
her books
gosh.
from her personal library. And also, I have a cape. It's a black cape. Her family called it her super sleuth cape.
Oh.
And I didn't care what that was going to cost. I have her cape, and I actually wear it on occasion. I
Oh
love
my
it. It
gosh.
looks like a Sherlock Holmes kind of black cape, but I thought it was real cute. Her family said it was her super sleuth cape. And yeah, every once in a while in the wintertime, you might see me tooling around town in
Oh my
my
gosh.
in my cape. So I feel like, well, that's a little piece of her that maybe even though I didn't get to meet her, it was kind of fun to be able to grab hold of.
You still get to carry a little bit of her with you.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that. And I don't know
And
why
of course, I have her books.
I can totally see her
Uh,
wearing a cape.
yeah, yeah. No, see, and I've looked for pictures of her. And unfortunately, I can't find a photo of her in the cape, but I'll take her family's word for it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so much fun. So,
Yeah,
what do you think about after she died? Two books were released. Of course, she was already writing with
right,
Oliver Burke. Two books were
right.
released. Did you read those two books after she died?
I did not. I'm not a big fan of the collaborative books. I prefer like James Patterson. I'll read James Patterson, but I've read one or two of the collaborative and it's not the same. So
Yeah.
I'm sure the books are excellent and I've seen that people have reviewed them and liked them, but to me it's not quite the same thing. So I haven't really gotten into that. What about you?
Well, I did like the I did like the ones that they did while she was alive. I
Alive.
do
She had more
prefer
input.
she had more import and probably had a little bit. I mean, I don't know what that writing dynamic looked like between the two of those,
Right.
but it didn't
Hmm.
feel like too much of a departure from her writing style. I did not
Hmm.
care for the two that came out after she died, but
Hmm.
I didn't really feel like there was a lot of her voice in it. So I've often wondered,
Right.
like, were these book concepts that maybe she started and just never got to, and so the Oliver Burke maybe just took over them and wrote them. And sounds kind of silly, but since you've read a lot of her books, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
There were certain things that Mary Higgins Clark's, like her characters, said in almost every one of her books, dollars to donuts.
Right. Yes.
that was
Yes.
that was never said in any of the new books. And I was like, okay,
Oh,
as an homage. So I don't know. I can't quite put my
you can hear
finger on it.
things.
Yeah, but it just
Right.
the two books, I did go ahead and read them, but it just didn't feel like a Mary Higgins Clark book. So
Right.
yeah.
No, I agree. I think that's why I've hesitated in reading them. I think I have the first one, but I haven't read it yet. Maybe one of these days. One of
Yeah.
these days. I prefer to reread. I'll go back and in fact I'm
Same.
rereading All by Myself Alone right
Hmm.
now is what the title, the one that was on the cruise ship,
Yeah.
and having fun rereading that. So I'd rather, because I forget stories, I'll go back and I have no idea, I don't remember who did it, so
Oh,
I can
same.
reread,
Yeah.
and I enjoy doing that. I think more so than maybe reading one that she collaborated with someone else.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely enjoy the ones that are just her, for sure.
Hmm.
But the good thing about her books is she's got so many of them. If you start from
Hmm.
the beginning and like you can reread her books and kind of it almost feels kind of like a new read. I mean, once you get into it,
Right.
like I usually remember stuff, but I don't care. I don't think I will ever get tired of reading Mary Higgins Clark. Her books are just
Yeah.
that good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank goodness for Mary Higgins Clark.
Yes.
She's given us so many years of entertainment.
Yes.
I do want to kind of go back a little bit about you split your time between Houston and Colorado.
Mhm.
What's that about?
Well, we always loved Colorado, and then got a house in Telluride, is where we're at now. And so we spent about half our time there.
Okay.
And when I started the my first book, I thought, well, where am I going to set a murder mystery? And again, back to Mary Higgins Clark, hers are all mostly around New York and New Jersey, where she's from. So I
Yes.
thought, well, I could do Houston, but what am I going to do? And then I thought, oh, well, I could definitely do the Rocky Mountains. That's a great setting for a murder mystery. So that's where I set the first book is actually set in Aspen,
Hmm.
and I had so much fun doing that, and then figured out, well, it was going to have to be a series. So that's when I put my protagonist in an Airstream. He travels around in an Airstream. I was like, well, I don't want to leave the series in Aspen the whole time. I was kind of just teaching myself how to get the book done, and everybody knows Aspen. So I set the story there, and it has a high celebrity quotient too. So Aspen worked good for that. But I knew I didn't want to stay there. So I thought, well, how am I going to get him? He's a police detective. He doesn't have a lot of money. How am I going to get him around the state? So I thought, well, I'm
Yeah.
going to put him in an Airstream. So it's been fun. I moved the second book to the Vale and Denver area. And the third book, I finally got to Telluride, where we're at. And like I said, we spent about half the year. And I've had three in Telluride now. And I did bring him back to Texas for one of the books, but it begins and ends in Colorado. So it's just been a lot of fun. The Rocky Mountains, there's something mysterious and
There is.
intriguing about them that it lends itself very well to a mystery series.
It does. And you don't see, I've not read many books that are set in the Rocky Mountains. So it does give, they almost feel like a side character in the books.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's funny. I just got, since you mentioned it, I got an email yesterday from a lady who had emailed me or messaged me off of my website. And she said, I just wanted to let you know that I wanted to read a murder mystery set in the Colorado Rocky Mountains, and I found your book. And I'm like, well, that was very specific. She
Yeah.
said she loved them. And I was like, oh, I love hearing that. I always tell my readers in the back of the books, I love hearing from you. But I thought that was really interesting that she went specifically looking for one set in the Rockies. So I was really glad that she somehow found mine. So,
Yeah. Let's talk about each of your books. We're actually talking about the sixth book, but for readers that maybe haven't read your books, can you kind of
mhm.
just give us just a little nugget about each book, and then we'll move into the discussion
Sure,
of the last one.
sure, sure. It is a series, but it is something that if one of the stories seems to appeal more than the others, you could pick up and read as a standalone. A lot of times I will tell people if they ask, which one should I start with? I usually will tell them start with the second book, Everything to Lose,
Oh,
just
okay.
because I feel like just that one came so quick and easy to me that by the time I'd finished that first one teaching myself how to write a book, if you like the first one at all, I beg people, please give the second a try if you like the first at all, because I
Yeah.
think I got better
Yeah.
and kind of found my groove. And so I usually will tell people that if they want to read the series, to start with the second, but really any of them you can pick up at any time and read as a
Yeah.
standalone.
And I hear readers ask that question so much about series. I've got book 3, but I haven't read the first 2. Can I read it? I always, my
Hmm.
suggestion is always start with book 1 and just go through the series. But I've read book 1 and book 2 of yours, and then I read book 6 for this podcast and read it just fine. So you definitely
Great,
can read them as standalones. So it probably helped
great.
that I had the little bit of introduction from books 1 and books 2. So tell listeners, can you just tell them the name of each book? Then for the people that are watching on
Sure,
YouTube, I'll flash a picture of the cover so they can see that.
sure.
So kind of give us the titles of those books.
Okay. Book one is Now I See You. Book two was Everything to Lose. Book three is The Killing Storm. Book four is Murder in the San Juans. Book five is Death in a Harsh Land. And book six is Echoes in the Dark.
Okay. Jack Martin. Tell us a little bit about Jack Martin.
Well, his backstory is there's a little bit of a mystery on what happened when he was growing up. He's from Baton Rouge, and each of the books you get a little bit of his backstory and figuring out what's going on. And I have intentions of actually moving a book to Baton Rouge and New Orleans
Oh,
eventually, and giving you a little bit more of the backstory. But he grew up with his grandparents there, and then went to Texas A&M on a football scholarships, where I went to school, and then ended up in the FBI and had little couple of issues in the FBI. Got pretty much kicked out of the FBI, went to Aspen as a police detective, and realized in Aspen that he was hired to train someone else and that he was working himself out of a job. And that's how I got him out of the role. I knew I didn't want to do a police procedural. That's how I got him out of the role of being police detective in a police department, and to what he is now, which is a private investigator, a private detective. So he makes his way around Colorado. He landed in Telluride a while back, and says, "I love Telluride. Jack loves Telluride." So he's been there for a few books now. So, like I said, I have plans to. He's going to go to Louisiana at some point, but right now we're staying in Colorado for a little bit.
now
But
when you go back to Louisiana, will that be like a prequel, or will that just be him going back?
no, I have ideas of him going back home because of things that had happened while he was growing up when he was there with his
Oh,
grandparents.
okay.
So yeah, so that's the plan as of now anyway. So
Oh, okay.
but
That one.
but he's been a fun character to write, kind of a loner. He did find a dog along the way, so
That was
everybody who
going to be
knows
one
me
of my next
knows
questions.
knows
Yeah.
how much. Yeah, everybody knows how much I love my rescue dogs. So Jack has acquired through interesting means. In the first book, actually, is when he first got his Crockett, his dog,
Crockett.
and
Yeah.
of course Crockett plays a role in most of the books.
What
So,
kind
and
of
a big
dog
role
is
in book
Crockett?
3. Crockett is a chocolate lab mix
Okay.
and a rescue dog that he inherited in the first book. So, and I've since added a second dog, Red, in there, another
Yes.
rescue that his neighbor in the campground has. So, and that happened in book 4, I believe. So I have a
Okay.
lot of fun. But everybody who knows me knows how much I love my rescue pups. So
Yeah.
had
And
to
if you
include them in the stories.
follow Shannon on Facebook, she has a lot of pictures of her dogs on there. So if you're a dog lover,
Hmm.
you'll love following her and just getting to see all the fun locations where she lives in Colorado and stuff. So are there any other characters that sort of follow Jack Martin along in the books, or are they sort of new characters with every book?
They were new characters pretty much with every book until book 3 when he did land in Telluride. And since then, he's got Otto Finn, who is his neighbor at the campground where he lives, and a couple other characters that show up, some elderly sisters that own a mercantile in town.
Mm-hmm.
And
I loved those two. They were a hoot.
oh, well, I have a lot of fun writing the sisters, and I have a sister, so it's kind of fun how you can push and pull a little bit on that, and
Yeah.
you know which buttons to push. So that's been a lot of fun writing Opal and Ivy,
Yes.
and so since book 3, a lot of the same characters, which has been fun too, show up in each of the books.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the charm of series books is you kind of feel like you get to know these people. It's almost
Hmm.
like visiting friends when you open up the next book and they're there. So
Right.
yeah, so I think that's kind of
Right.
the fun part of that. As we go into the book, Jack meets Deputy Kim O'Connor. Is
Mhm.
this her first appearance in a book?
It's not. She was
Okay.
actually in the first book,
Oh,
The
okay.
Killing Storm, which was the first book set in Telluride, my third book.
Okay.
She had a little cameo, not very big. But
Okay.
then the subsequent books, she's gotten larger and larger roles in it. And she also is in book 7, which I'm writing now. She'll have her largest role
Oh,
in this
okay.
book. So it's kind of been fun to get to know her and bring her along.
She and Jack had a little bit of a conflict in this book.
Hmm.
Is that something you can tell without? We're not going to give any
Sure.
spoilers here. We're going to be careful because we want people to experience this the way you would if you hadn't heard this podcast. So tell us a little bit about the conflict between these two.
Right. No, it's fun to see how character dynamics change throughout throughout the series and the book. But at the beginning of this last book, Echoes in the Dark, the sheriff has asked Jack to come in and help with this investigation. And she, being the lead investigator, she is a little resentful of it and kind of resents Jack's involvement in it. And he
Yeah.
senses it. So he kind of keeps his distance. And he's supposed to be working with her and sharing information. And he doesn't always do that. But he's not used to working with someone else, too. Like I said earlier, he's a little bit of a loner.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting how their dynamics change throughout the book, how he ends up taking on more of a mentor role and seeing that she's going to be a good cop
Yes.
and wants to help her. So that was definitely their changing relationship throughout this last story.
I really like the way Jack, you know, written the wrong way, Jack could have really been a very unlikable character, but he
Hmm.
did try his best to sort of take the back seat. The sheriff wanted him to come in and help, but he did sort of take a back seat and give Kim the room to do so that she didn't feel like
Right,
she was being taken over by the man. I like that about that. So can you
right.
just
Thank you.
take us into the book to kind of give us some of the high points of it?
Well, it's interesting. I have probably one of the, and you get it too. The biggest question we get asked the most is, where do you get your ideas? And it was a couple summers ago, so it was probably the summer of 2023. I did a tour of a mine near Telluride, not in Telluride, but it's in the town of Ouray, which is about 45 minutes away or so,
And
an
that
hour
town
away.
does show
And
up in the book.
yes, it does show up in the book. And I did a tour there of a mine, which was my umpteenth time I'd been underground. I love mines and caves, caverns, you name it. Just kind of weird that way.
Yeah.
But I thought that's when I got the idea. I was like, I was writing a book already, but I thought I want to do another one in centered around an old abandoned mine because it is a fascination. They're fascinating, these old places.
Yeah.
And so that's where I got the idea to put a story in the mine. And basically, it is a fictional mine. The Judas Mine is a fictional mine.
I
And I
wondered
created a
that.
fictional, yes, and a fictional high mountain basin. So it's in a fictional area because if I put it somewhere that was a real location, of course, I would have somebody pointing out, well, it can't be there because this, that, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I made everything. So it's my mine, and I had some schoolboys find a body in the mine one day when they're playing hooky, and that's how the story gets rolling on how this body got in the mine and what happened to him, and that was the impetus behind the story. So I had a lot of fun just thinking about how I was going to work this, and the whole story doesn't evolve or exist in this mine. They're in Telluride, they're in Ouray,
Yes.
but I did have a lot of fun working it in where I could.
And again, that was a very interesting because I've never read books that centered on mines. And a big part of the story is there's kind of a treasure hunt involved. Can you take us a little bit into that? We don't want to give any spoilers, but can you kind of tell a little bit about that part of the story?
Sure, sure. The man who is found dead in the mine is actually looking for gold. And there is a treasure hunter also in the book that is an outside character that kind of comes into Telluride. And I really got the idea for him reading Clive Cussler. I don't know if you've read any of Clive Cussler's novels, but I
I
love his
did
big
recently for the first time. Yeah.
big, broad sweeping, broad scope, a
Yes.
lot of treasure hunting type things. And I love the movie National Treasure with Nicolas Cage. So I thought, well, I'm
Uh-huh.
going to bring a little bit of that in here too. So that was kind of the impetus behind that character in the book. You remember Eli Wren.
Hmm.
And we have Eli in town is a treasure hunter looking for this fabled lost vein of gold. And he is one of the suspects too. But the owner of this mine is murdered, and then we've got all these different suspects in town who have different motives, from an ex-girlfriend to a partner to a nefarious banker to all these people that might have reason to want to kill him. And that's who Jack has to weed through all of the lies and secrets to figure out what actually happened and make sure that the killer's caught.
Now, one thing as I read that I didn't realize, I learned a little bit of something in this. Of course, I think we all probably remember learning about the California Gold Rush back in the
Hmm.
day. I did not realize that there was a Colorado Gold Rush. Was that a big thing? Did I just miss that in school, or is that just lesser known?
You know what? I think the school books do gloss over it. We've all heard of the 49ers, right?
Yeah.
The ones that went to California in 1849. And what they don't tell you in the storybooks, that was a big one. But 59 is the Colorado Gold Rush, and it was exponentially larger than the California one. And what I thought was interesting, they really don't talk a lot about it in the books. You might have heard things like Pikes Peak or bust, and
Yes.
that was kind of the calling card for the people marketing, trying to get these miners across the country to come, was Pikes Peak, or they were headed to Pikes Peak, which is outside of Colorado Springs, which interestingly is not where the gold rush was. It was farther north of there in the area Clear Creek outside of Denver, where the Colorado Gold Rush started and then went into the mountains.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was huge, huge gold rush, men from all over the world. And it just doesn't get the press that the California one did. Being the history nut again, I get lost in my history. That was a
Yeah.
little bit of reading I could do. I was like, oh, I'm going to go brush up on my Colorado Gold Rush history. And I did go back and read a couple books on it and was able to put a couple nuggets in there. Of course, my editor is always pulling information out. She's like, okay, this is overload. They don't need this much information, but I sneak little tidbits in
Yeah.
about the history, because the area is rich in history, and it's just so interesting the lives that these people led. And I get to include a little bit of that in my books, which has been a lot of fun for me.
I don't know if you know the answer to this. What kind of minerals do they pull out of the Rocky Mountains? Like, is there gold there?
Yes, yes. Well, originally it was definitely they were after gold, but they were also after their silver, copper, all sorts of things. And rhodochrosite is a gem that I have mentioned in the book.
And I actually
There's
Googled
actually,
that, and that's a beautiful
did you?
stone. Yeah, because I wanted to
It
see
is a
if it was
gorgeous
a real
stone.
thing. It's really pretty. It's like a pinkish stone. Yeah.
Right. Right. And there weren't any that's I've taken my authorial license, and I can, you can do whatever you want in the book. There was no rhodochrosite mines around Telluride,
Okay.
but I did stick one there in this book. But there is a large rhodochrosite mine in Colorado, and people don't know how valuable these gems are. If you Google them, you can see these gorgeous pictures and what they've gone for
Yeah.
in these auctions to different museums and stuff is unbelievable. So that was kind of a fun little tidbit that I
Yeah.
could add in there too. The little nuggets like that, literally and figuratively, that I
Yeah.
can stick in the book and have fun with. Put my love for history in them without overwhelming the reader.
And I think it's totally fine to make stuff up like that. If it's a fictional town, who's to say that rhodochrosite can't be there too?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're going to start wrapping this up a little bit. But before we go, I do
Okay.
want to talk a little bit about Abby. She's a little
Hmm.
12-year-old character in the book. And I have to say,
Hmm.
I'm not always a fan of children in books. I am
I'm not either.
astounded. Do you find that a lot of authors do not do a good job of writing? I can't tell you how many times I've read a child in a book and I've screamed, "Have you ever met a kid? Kids don't talk like that. Kids don't act like that." Abby was so well written.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, Abby is my daughter's name. And my
Oh,
daughter, from the very beginning, in the very first book, I had a waitress named Abby in the book. And ever since then, she has bugged me about naming a major character after her. And it just so happens that it worked out in this book that I was going to use this girl. And I'm not a fan of children in books either. So I really don't, it's not a children or a YA young adult book by any means. But I do, in the first chapter, have these schoolboys who find the body. And I have this character, Abby, that I had so much fun with. And I've had such positive feedback on, and
hmm.
which thrills me and thrills my daughter even more, who was so excited that I named a character after her, a major character.
Yeah.
And no, I was trying to, again, not wanting it to be a children's book. I tried really hard just to put in the things that I needed, and how trying to remember back as a girl what you might be thinking and how you might react to things and the
Hmm.
dialogue that you may or may not use. I'm not going to have a lot of children in books in the future, but I did have a lot of fun with that one, and she is definitely one of my favorite characters that I've written.
Yeah.
So
Can
thank
you?
you for that.
Oh
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Can you tell the readers just a little bit of the role she played? The thing I liked about Abby is that she wasn't an annoying kid. She actually had a valid role in the book. So
Hmm.
yeah, tell us
Hmm.
a little bit about her.
Well, I wanted her to be an old soul, a lot like my daughter. She's just very, introspective and a little bit of an old soul. But she is a character in the book who starts out almost as an orphan. She's been sent to Telluride by a family that didn't want her anymore. And she loves the mountains, plays hooky, spends a lot of time in the mountains, and is somehow entangled in everything that goes on in the book. You find out at the end that she is involved with more than you know at the beginning, and she's very precocious and mischievous, and uh, again, not too many kid things in it, but I did have a lot of fun with her, and she does play a major role in the book.
Yeah, she does. I really liked her character. I did not cringe one
Thank you.
time reading her character. So let's talk a little
Good.
bit. Let's talk a little bit about naming characters. I have this kind of weird thing in my books where I like very unique names, but as a general rule, I try not to use character names for people that I know in my real life because it kind of annoys me when people assume that a character is named after them and like
After them,
yeah, and it's like
right,
I hate to, and I would never say that to people, but like, yeah, I didn't even think of you
right.
as I was writing. So, how do you go about naming your characters?
Right. No, it's funny that you mentioned that because they really do. The names like ideas come from everywhere, don't they?
Uh huh.
Sometimes this character will pop into your head and the name pops right in with it.
Yes.
Other times you struggle and
Yes.
you start out with something and then you end up changing it because you know it doesn't feel right. I think it has to fit the author's idea
Yeah.
of what this character is like. And funny thing, when I really get stumped for secondary characters, I have a book that lists every character and a description of them that has been in an Agatha Christie book. And
Oh.
it's fabulous. So for fun, I have a ton of Agatha Christie, not first and last, but I'll take a first from one page and a last from another. And I have a lot of crossover with Agatha Christie character
Oh.
names.
Interesting.
So that's been fun. But I'm the same way. I don't like my really close friends and family. I haven't had a lot other than my children. I've kind of had fun with that. I have used my kids' names in the book, but in one of them, like my baby, who's my wild child, his name is Patrick, and I had him in book two. There's a Patrick. And I mean, this character is a degenerate, but I knew he was going to get a huge kick out of it.
Yeah.
So it's fun things like that that I've been able, like my daughter was the first one that I did with the waitress, and I just a little piece, just a walk on, walk off role. And so then I've used my oldest is Jordan, and I've used him in the Del Rio book, the one that was in Texas, and Death in a Harsh Land. But
Yeah.
then with Abby, this last book, I went all out because she just kept telling me, Mom, I was just a waitress in the first book, and now Jordan and Patrick have had these characters. So I really surprised her. I didn't tell her what I was doing. And any time that I was around her or my husband, nobody knew. I would shut the laptop, cover up my notes. And a lot of times I refer to the character instead of writing out Abby in my notes. I just had a capital A, so that nobody knew until my book came out
Oh,
what I had done. So that was a surprise for
I
everybody.
bet she
But
was thrilled.
she was thrilled, and she says too. She says, "I know I'm biased, but she's my all-time favorite character." So
So did you just let
yeah,
her just read the book and just so organically see that she was,
yes.
yes, okay.
Yes, yes. Got her a sent her a copy and just let her start reading. And, a
Yeah. Well, and
few
another,
chapters in, I get this text, Mom, what'd you do? I keep reading. And then, closer to the end of the book, she's like, Mom, what did you do? And I was like, keep reading.
you got to keep reading. I'm not going to tell you.
Exactly.
That's fun.
Exactly.
My best friend Janice, I named her after character in my very first book. And when I do use the name of a person I know, I like to give them in the book a totally different personality. So the
Right.
character that I used for that book, she was like a airheaded yoga hussy type person. And Janice was like, "This is nothing like me." And I was like, "Well, it's not supposed to be anything like you."
That's
It's
great.
like when you use people in a book, you bet
That's great.
you need to make sure that they will never recognize themselves in the book. So
No, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. That's great.
So okay, so we're gonna start wrapping this up. Is there anything else about the book you wanted to say?
No, other than I'm absolutely having a blast writing them. And I tell readers all the time, either on social media or in the back of the book in the acknowledgement, that I love hearing from them. And like the lady who I got the email from yesterday saying that she had found my books searching for Colorado murder mysteries. I love hearing from them because that really is what keeps me writing. So I
Yeah.
really do appreciate that.
Readers just do not know how much it
Hmm.
means. It is so encouraging, especially in a world like Mary Higgins Clark told me, in a world where there's so much criticism out there. It really does. It's so nice to hear an encouraging word from our readers. So keep doing that, guys. We really
Yeah,
do appreciate
please.
it. Yeah. So,
Yes.
do you have an idea of or a sense of how many books might be in this series? Like, how will you know when it's over?
I don't know. And I've had people ask me how many more. And I'm like, well, as long as I'm having fun and that there are people out there letting me know that they like it and that it's worth my while, then I'm just going to keep writing. We'll see how it goes.
So there's no plans for any other series or individual standalone or
I have thought about that before, so we'll see. I'm definitely would I the idea of working something different in between series books is there. So I will definitely see that in the future at some point. I'm going to want to do something a little bit different. I've already got a couple little ideas of what that might be.
do you
So
find
one of
yourself
these
do you
days.
find yourself getting bored writing series books?
Well, I think that's why I kind of like the idea of like David Baldacci, who has, multiple series going, that it might be fun to try a standalone maybe and see how that goes and see what the feedback from the readers
Yeah.
would be and maybe go in that direction too. I can't ever see giving up Jack and Crockett and Otto, but working a different book in every once in a while might be a lot of fun. So that's
Yeah.
appealing. So we'll see what comes
All
what comes
right.
along.
Sounds good. Do you think you'll ever you said you dabbled in historical fiction. What are the chances that you might ever go back and finish one of those books now that you've kind of got a series under your belt? What do you think the chances of that might be?
I don't, right now, I would say probably not, just because I'm scared to death to try it because I never could get one finished. And also, I'll finish a book now and get it out there. And within a few days, I have readers, again, bless them, that keep me reading, that will message me and say, I absolutely loved it. When's the next one coming out?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to disappoint them either because I feel like, well, if I did something completely, did a 180 and did something completely different, that maybe there'd be some people out there that were disappointed
They'd be
too.
disappointed.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a little bit my fear of not being able to get one done, but then also not wanting to disappoint these sweet readers who are following me on this journey of
Yes.
mine.
And who've
So,
invested so much time
yes, yes,
and
in reading all the
going
stories.
into these stories. Yeah. Yeah. So what
Hmm.
is something that you've learned over the years, maybe that you didn't know in the beginning but that you know now about, and it can be about the craft or just anything.
Oh, Brett, it's all of it. It has been a learning curve from the beginning. Definitely from craft, like I said, taught myself uh, through Mary Higgins Clark's work, but have morphed into kind of my own style, more traditional mystery, but also just interacting with readers and the marketing side of it and trying to get, if people don't know about your books, they're not going to read them. So that has been a learning curve. Just figuring out how to get these earbuds connected to the telephone to get through the podcast is a learning curve. It's all a learning curve.
It
So
is.
It is, but that's good. I think that's good. We should learn something new every day if we can.
Absolutely. Do you find it hard to talk about your own books?
Uh, Sometimes yes, and sometimes no. I think the worst is when somebody tells you, "Oh, I'm reading one of your books right now," and I'm like, "Oh no, I hope you like it." I get a little embarrassed. I get a little
Yes.
embarrassed. But now when somebody has read it and they contact you, then yes, I'd love to talk about it all day. I'll talk to you all day long because you spend months with these characters in this story in your head. And I don't know about you, but I don't talk about it at all to anyone while I'm writing. Nobody knows. My editor is my
Mhm.
first reader. I don't have beta readers. I don't run ideas by people. My editor is my first reader, and she gets it when the book is finished. So I lived for months with this story, this world in my head, and when it's finally released into the world, and people want to talk about it, they've read it. I love to do that. So
Yeah. Coming up probably in a couple of weeks, we're actually going to do an in-depth book discussion on one of my books for the first time. I've had several listeners here on the podcast are like, when are you going to talk about one of your books? And I intentionally haven't done it because one, I just don't want the podcast to be all about me and my books. And second of all, I have the hardest time talking about my own books.
it's hard.
It's
Yeah,
hard.
it it's hard, especially with people who haven't read them. But like I said, once they do, then it's a lot of fun. You feel like your world is opened up and you can finally share it. So
Exactly. Yeah.
that's
So coming up probably in November, war songs. We're going to do a full book discussion on war songs. One of my co-hosts finally
great.
talked me into it. And I'm
Great.
so nervous about it. We're going to wrap this up. A couple of just quick questions. What are you reading right now?
I'm rereading Mary Higgins Clark all by myself
That's
alone,
right. You said
and
that earlier.
it's been fun. And I'm not sure what I have on deck next. I've been reading Georgette Heyer, who is an old British. She did Regency romances, but I love her mysteries. And I've probably read 3 of them this summer, and I have a couple more that I haven't read yet. She did 12 mystery novels. She's known for her Regencies, but I love her mysteries. So
Okay.
she's probably on deck for my next read.
Oh, okay. If you could sit down and talk with one author, if you could call him up and say, I'm taking you out to dinner, who would it be?
Besides Mary Higgins Clark, it would definitely be Mary Roberts Reinhardt, America's Agatha Christie.
Okay, I'm going to check her out. I can't believe I've never heard of her. So tell listeners where they can find you if they want to look you up online, if they want to follow you on social media. Tell them where they can find you.
Facebook. I'm on Facebook. Is probably my largest platform. Instagram, and that's that's probably about it. I do upload the little short videos that I've done onto YouTube, but don't really push that. But really, Facebook is the main place where you can
Man,
find
it's
me and
hard to get
interact. And I'd love to
momentum
hear
on
from you.
YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I use it kind of as a storage for the videos that I've done. I kind of stick them on there just in case.
all right. So you guys can follow her. Like I said, hers is really interesting because she lives in the Rocky Mountain area. So a lot of times, just when she's out walking the dogs, you get to see all this beautiful landscape. So if for no other reason, it's fun to follow her for that. So we are going to get off here. If you want to follow us, we're pretty much everywhere. We have a presence on TikTok. We have a presence on Instagram, on Facebook. You can search Bookish Introverts Podcast. We're on YouTube. It's under my name, Brett Nelson, but if you just go to the YouTube search engine, you can find us at Bookish Introverts Podcast. So we're kind of everywhere. Our podcast is on Spotify, Pandora, pretty much all the major podcast platforms. That's where we get most of our listens on the podcast. Anywhere you want to find us, we're probably there. Right, Shannon?
Right.
Well, we are going to jump off here. Thank you, Shannon, for coming on. It's been so much fun to
Thank
talk to you
you.
after all these
It's been a
years.
lot of fun.
We finally get to talk face to face.
I love it. Thank you,
Yeah,
Brett.
absolutely. Listeners, we appreciate you guys coming in and listening, and we will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Bookish Introverts podcast, where together we explore the worlds within the pages. Until next time, stay bookish.